Welcome to part 3 on the story of how my husband is reversing his heart disease. To recap, we're now in the story where my husband, who's been struggling with symptoms of heart disease for about 6 months, is now going in to get his CAT scan, the cardioangiography, to find out how much, if he has heart disease and how much. So he goes in for the CAT scan, and the nurse comes out, doctor comes out, and it's that moment when your fight and flight hormones are going crazy because they don't have good news for you. And actually they didn't give us the results there, but the nurse was concerned, and I just remember her telling me as we were getting wrapped up with the appointment, no matter what happens, remember, we're really good at what we do. And your husband's up walking around. He's not in a heart attack right now, so we will be able to help him. And everything's going to be fine. And then we went home, and I kid you not, we were not home more than 5 minutes when the phone rang. And it was our cardiologist, and he was telling my husband that he had to get his everything in order, get everything packed, and come right back down to the hospital because his left circumflex, no, they were only showing his right coronary artery on the angiography, and it was showing that it was 70% blocked. So the doctor was basically telling him, you need to go to this catheter lab and you need to go have a stent placed in this artery. So I will shorten the story here, not tell you all the stuff that we had to do to get ready for that. But we rushed over to the hospital, and we attempted to walk into the admissions of the cath lab. Catheter lab is what it's called, the cath lab. And he couldn't make it. He couldn't walk 10 feet. So we took one long step at a time. It was the longest walk of my life. And we made it to the admissions desk, and he was in the process of starting a heart attack at that time. Or let me just say more accurately, I'm sorry, it's just so dark right here. I can't find a good angle. And he couldn't walk the 20 feet to the room where he needed to go. So they got him a wheelchair. I can say that we probably just made it just in time. And so I was in the waiting room and waited for a long time, worried for a long time, and prayed a lot. And then the doctor called me back. Actually, no. The nurse came out, and hold on just a second. Gotta be a little quiet right here. They're doing some testing in this house over here. I don't want to make them distracted. Had some surveyors surveying a house that's up for sale, and I didn't want to distract them with my story. So anyway, the nurse comes out and she says, we have news for you. Your husband's arteries are not in the condition that we thought they were. One is 99% blocked, which is the left circumflex artery that's behind the heart is 99% blocked. And then the right coronary artery is 100% blocked. And I said, 100% blocked? 100% blocked? How could that even be? I mean, how is it that he didn't have a heart attack? And she said, I'm not sure. I think that's an interesting answer, but maybe she wasn't a cardiology nurse. Maybe she didn't understand why he was still alive. So The procedure took about 45 minutes, and in the meantime I called my daughter, who was living in town at the time, and my son-in-law, bless his heart, I'll always be grateful to him for this because I was in shock. His mother also had autoimmune disorders, and so he was very, very cognizant of what I was going through and knew that I was going to need a second set of ears to hear what the doctor was going to say. So he came to be my second set of ears, and I'm so grateful that he did. I'll always be grateful to him for that. So he came, doctor called us back, and he showed us the video of the procedure. And my husband's left circumflex artery was in fact not only blocked 100%, but it had an inch long of cement in his artery, just a quarter of an inch away from the aorta. And if it had been any closer to the aorta, he would have had to have bypass surgery. And they did not stent that artery that day. Imagine having the doctor tell you that your husband's got 100% blocked artery with an inch long thickness and he's not going to take care of it, and sending you home with a bunch of medications and giving him the sign off to go ahead and go back to work. But he did show us the magic on the video of what the stent did for the back artery, the left circumflex artery. And amazingly, my husband, fast forwarding a little bit, amazingly, he did feel a ton better. But going home with this 100% blocked artery was the scariest thing I'd ever done in my life. And I did not want to let him out of my sight. He spent a miserable time in the hospital. Don't ever let yourself get heart disease to where you have to have any kind of procedure done on your heart, because just the shunts that they put in to the groin to be able to put the guide wire up into the heart is enough to deal with, to not ever want to have to go through that again. I've never seen him in so much pain as I did when they pulled those shunts out after the procedure. I could do another hour-long podcast on that experience, but I'm not going to right now. Okay, so he sent us home with all these medications. He's got this one stent in his heart, and he's feeling a lot better. So he thinks that he can play basketball now with the boys, and he actually can walk now, but he's still got angina, and all he can do is really play pig or whatever, horse or whatever they play in basketball. And man, this story really is a long story. While he was in the hospital, I had written, because I had already been doing the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease diet for several months, I knew that I needed to write Dr. Esselstyn. So I wrote him an email, because his website, which is heartattackproof.com, had an email that I could write him on. And I'm going to end here. I'm going to end part 3. And I will now stop this video and go to part 4. Thank you for watching.